Well, good to see you again, and thank you to the board members, past and present, and the volunteers, past and present, and everyone who's here that helps, supports, and maintains the sangha, the organization. It truly benefits us all, many people, and those ripples that go out, you can't see where they go, but it's an offering that is valuable and rare. So I appreciate that. I mentioned I think at the beginning, we just having a weekend retreat. We say a session. It's odd in a sense because it begins on a Friday evening and finishes on a Sunday morning. So it's quite quick. It can go by quite quick. Although for those of you who've done retreat, it doesn't feel like it's going quick sometimes. It can be quite the adjustment. But we call it a beginner's. The retreat we just did, we call a beginner's mind session. Right. So it's got a nice title. Um, it attracts beginners, people who are new, just saying beginner. Okay, beginner's mind, that sounds like something I might be able to do, right? But it also of course points at something deeper. Beginner's mind, the mind of openness, and a mind of a practitioner who is present has the mind of a beginner. So if we've been practicing a few years, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 40 years, then still each time we sit, it's brand new. It is a blank slate. And the way that we practice, this way that we realize, it's not something that belongs to the really to the known. It's not something that can be grasped or held onto, right? And one of the worst, I think, for if you become very, more kind of adept or experienced, or God forbid, a teacher in the Dharma, then something to really to watch out for is not to conflate my way with the way. Right? The way does not belong to even the Buddha, but this way, this what I'm calling the way, reality, life in itself, that is a full experience for everyone, regardless of position or experience in practice. All our hands are full, and life extends in every direction. I was talking to a friend of mine about meditation, somebody who's been going through a difficult time, and um, from my standpoint, I know several people at the present who are going through a difficult time for different reasons, whether it be health or with loss. There are a lot of people who are going through a difficult time that I know. So that's been very present for me. And I was asking my friend. I said, "Well, have you been? How has practice looked for you during this time?" And they said, "Well, I haven't really been practicing." And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And they said, "Well, I haven't really been sitting. Sitting's very tough." And in fact, but they'd been working on other things. And I said, "Yeah, well, it's interested in that way about what we call practice. It's when we ask about have you been practicing, is it just a practice of meditation? Meditation is not a cure all of a practice for all things." Right? It's like the Buddha, if we look back as a historical founder of our meditation tradition, was certainly an adept meditator, had learned meditation in different styles and different lineages, and it was through the practice and the seat of meditation that he was able to experience profound illumination or enlightenment through the vehicle of still sitting. So it is held up as a key and a foundational way in which to inquire deeply into being. Right? But there may be times where we're experiencing uh, particularly difficult content and particularly strong and difficult emotions. You know. At that time, then it's not always the best advice isn't always, well, you should just sit and feel it. I've seen that in my experience at Yokoji, where people have go through a time where they can feel very low, right? And it might be the default approach might be to just feel that, or to just just lean into that, be in contact with that. But we can see in our life, in our experience of emotion and feelings, that if they're a negative, if it's what's perceived as a negative feeling, that there's no bottom there. You may be leaning in pretty far, you lean right over the edge, right? So at such times, uh, perhaps meditation then, or a lot of still sitting practiced in that way, is not the most supportive thing. For my friend, they said they'd been doing a lot of breathing practice, just sitting in a chair, consciously breathing. But again, that is a form of meditation too. Right? The Buddha used meditation in order to awaken and to become illuminated. But as a teacher, he didn't just say, "Okay, you just meditate. That's what you do." Right? Meditation is a way to realize illumination or enlightenment. But practice is the practice of a human life, the full range of a human life. And that's where the Buddha was particularly adept, a wonderful doctor of the human condition, and would prescribe different medicines, different spiritual treatments in a sense for all kinds of conditions that we might experience. But ultimately, meditation is not just experienced in stillness on the, sitting in a chair or on the ground in a cushion. In seated meditation, meditation is can be realized and expressed in all activity, in all activities. That ultimately is, you realize everything is meditation. Meditation of sitting, but that extends to the meditation of movement and the 100,000, and the thousands of activities that we're involved in. That becomes clearer with the discipline of practice. And any kind of seated meditation practice really involves a discipline of some regular application, as we know. Like many of us have been sitting together for many years, and all of the teachers, the sages of from the ancient world, from the distant past, the more recent past, and contemporary, spend time in meditation practice. My practice somewhat, or what I speak to, I hope I don't bore you at the beginning when I with the brief, hopefully, guidance around how to arrange the body and how to orient the mind towards sit and practice. In my experience, what I found is breath awareness is a powerful anchor for presence. It's 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 always here, and if it isn't, you don't have to worry about that, I guess, right? I talked with somebody at the retreat, and I came in to see me, and they said about their practice, and he said my practice is breathing, And I said, "Oh, how's it going?" They said, "Well, it's going well." I said, "Well, clearly, I mean, you must be you must be pretty good at it if you're walking around up here, right?" But breathing, breath awareness is has a real yogic quality in meditation, helping to give basically the mind um, a scaffold in order to sit on. The body is that too, but breath is helpful when, again, I talked about if we are dealing with more difficult emotion or feeling, then breath awareness can be very helpful as an anchor. I would know for years that one of the things about living at a Zen center is when the bell goes, you have to go sit no matter what. So there's times where I would go up and sit after being involved in like a heated argument or something, something happened, like something breaks, so I don't know, some difficulty that really throws you for a loop, and then it's just like, oh, there's the goddamn block being hit, I gotta go, and kind of storm up and throw the robes on. Sometimes it's like that, then it's sit, but then naturally just return, okay, breath now. And often just count breaths, just count inhalations and exhalations. Find that anchor, find that place of connection where I could really then just process and experience. So a very valid and valuable practice with breathing. Now I was looking at, in preparation for a talk I was giving at the retreat. I was just reading about meditation and its import into China, right? From India. There's sometimes a new book or a new paper written where people will discover things, and I've lived through a time where some of the assumptions or ideas around how Zen and Chan has developed in China, or how it came from India. That has really changed over the last 20 years, and hopefully we have a little more kind of information or idea about how that might happen. When I first got involved in Zen, it was almost like, well, Bodhidharma's in India, and he's takes Zen, and he goes to China, and then Zen starts in China. And of course it's not. It's unlikely to have been quite so simple as that. But the Silk Road during that time, and the traveling that people did back and forth, but it was a slow process with Buddhism moving into China over several centuries, really, right? But when meditation came into China from India, there's some early writing that I was reading about, which is the kind of the ideogram of the character for meditation. One of the earliest ones was part of the character. It has the character for tranquility in there. Right. So originally, like, we would have this kind of tranquil quality in meditation. That's continued, that idea of a practice or wanting to realize tranquility in meditation right down to the modern day. It'll often be a projection of people who've never meditated, that they think that, well, if you just meditate and then you just become peaceful and tranquil. The tranquility just kicks in on day one, and then you can kind of just sit there in a nice blissful state. If it were that way, there's probably more people might be doing it, perhaps, right? It's like, it's not that there is not tranquility that can be found and realized in meditation. Certainly that is something that can be experienced. It's something that can be cultivated. And there are many different approaches to meditation. But my leaning, of course, and my experience and my interest lies keenly in this early Zen school. So this ideogram for tranquility later is not part of the translation for meditation. And in the early Chan or Zen days, there's the two characters. The first character shows is a character that shows light, celestial light, right? So the stars, the moon, and the sun, like three rays of light coming down from above. That's one of the characters. And it's extraordinary back in that era, in BCE times in China. Their understanding of reality was that life force or chi emanated from the stars and from the sun and moon. That was a worldview there. Isn't that extraordinary? Because if we look at it with a modern scientific knowledge or how we understand things now, then we can appreciate that our very bodies are made of stardust, literally. Like, is that not? It's like an extraordinary thing. The house or the condo or the apartment that we're sitting in, made of stardust. You know, the planet that the land that we're on, and the planet that's spinning around, made of the debris of stardust. Right. So in one sense, and the sun that rises and sets each day, which we rely on, but can typically take for granted. Right. Maybe if we're living in the desert, we try and avoid it for a few months of the year, if we're right, because it can get pretty pretty intense, of course. But we rely literally on the stars for this being, for this life. So this character showed this illumination of a light of stars and sun coming down. And the next character, the second character alongside it, is a character for altar, drawn like a body sitting. It's interesting, altar. So if I talked about meditation as a way, perhaps we arrange the body and then talking about breath awareness, well, now maybe we move to more of a Zen or Chan interpretation of what meditation is, or what just sitting is. And then when we gather our energy, we come to practice and we arrange our body, then we arrange the body like an altar. It is a sacred space, and it is an offering. And we have several altars, of course, at Yokoji here. We have the Kuan Yin and the Buddha figure, ICD's Buddhas, Kuan Yin, Rupas, are here still on vacation at the temple. They are also on the Buddha is on Maizumi Roshi's altar, and the Kuan Yin sits on an altar in the study hall for now, until we eventually hope we can return to a more permanent in-person place. And on the various altars around, we place offerings, we place things, flowers, Buddha images, perhaps incense, and then often the memorial plaques for those who have passed. So we offer and we put up what we value. We offer flowers and light. Candle. A candle is always burning when we sit and when we practice in that way. There's an offering made. Now, you could tip a trash can over the altar, and the altar would accept it. The altar would not complain. But that would be a poor use. I'm sure we could all agree, right? We look after it because we want to make sure that it is a good offering. But if we look at this in terms of our body and the body that we are and the life that we are all that altar. We make the offering of who we are to the world. The light of illumination comes down. You know, we could look at it as celestial light, but we don't have to look at it in that way. But we are animated and realized by the light of illumination that shone down on the Buddha and all of the Buddhas through past, present, and future. The light of illumination, the light of realization. This curious, indescribable, mysterious awareness that we all are now. We all are that now. The same root, the same awareness, the same curiosity of the same mystery of being. That we are experiencing that. So what do we put on our, what do we offer? What do we put on our altar? You know, the path of Buddhism goes beyond just the practice of still sitting and into the action of reducing suffering, reducing and assuaging the dissatisfaction that is natural to all in the human experience. We have that dissatisfaction. So we have this plethora of practices in order to help support one another. This one here and this one there. And efforting toward doing our best. We make a sincere offering in that way. I wanted to just share a few words from an older Taoist text. I really ought to, at some point, I'm going to learn how to pronounce some of these Chinese names properly, because sometimes I'll do that with like my friend Jindo, who studies Chinese, and I'll say someone's name in Chinese or a book's name, and I just see this look on his face where he's just like, oh my gosh, you know, like. But the way that I'm gonna, the early Taoist text is the Chuanju, right, which is another famous writing like the Tao Te Ching. So here's a quote, and we can look at this as and look at it how we use this in meditation or how this is experienced. It says, "You've heard of using wings to fly, but have you heard of using no wings to fly? You've heard of using knowing to know, but have you heard of using no knowing to know? Gaze into that cloistered calm, that chamber of emptiness where light is born. To rest in stillness is great good fortune. If we don't rest there, we keep racing around even when we're sitting quietly. Follow sight and sound deep inside and keep the knowing mind outside." So some 2,500, 3,000-year-old wisdom here for the approach of how to sit and orient the mind in just sitting practice. Have you heard of using not knowing to know or no knowing to know? Again, as I've brought up many times, you know, in our practice of meditation, throw away knowing. Don't be concerned with working things out. This is the time to take a break from knowing and doing and working things out. We're involved in so much of our activity in our day-to-day life. It's necessary to navigate a human life. But particularly in this practice of sitting meditation, be involved in no knowing. Just meet things, accept and allow the light, and that light comes in through many different gates. It can come in literally as light, but it comes in as hearing, comes in as sight, comes in as feeling, comes through all of the gates of the senses. And it also comes through as a dark enigma that can't be seen and can't be felt and can't be grasped. But that is what we embody and you can realize as you meet each experience, everything that occurs. All of this, there's always this churn of content, even in meditation. Thought distinguished from feeling, noise distinguished as different than than seeing. But true just sitting in upright meditation is to meet it all without the preference and without the bias. But you sit wide open and allow and welcome everything, all of you, all the crap too, right? Because you don't weigh it or judge it as that. However it feels, however it shows up, just allow and meet as it is, and welcome it in. Welcome the mystery. Master Dogen, who I think I like Dogen so much is because he went to China and he brought that lineage to Japan. He really brought the heart of his lineage to Japan. And somewhere I was reading one of the texts that I was studying of Dogen where he says, the empty sky is greeted with palms together. It's a beautiful expression of being that can be realized in our meditation and in our life. The empty sky you can take as the whole world, everything all together, is met with palms together, is met with a bow. After all, to argue or to tussle with reality, as we do as a human being, like guilty, but we do that. But reality always wins. Reality is always thus. As human beings, we struggle with that. That's part of the human condition, and that's okay. But if we can deeply practice and deeply realize this welcome with palms together, how this is, then as it says, follow it deep inside, keep the knowing mind outside. Cease, gaze into that cloistered calm where the light is born. To rest in stillness is great good fortune. To rest in stillness. That's our practice of meditation, to rest. Rest in stillness. He adds the line, if we don't rest there, we keep racing around even while we're sitting quietly. Do you know that kind of meditation, right? We know that, where it feels like, well, I'm sitting, but it feels like I'm at a NASCAR race in my head, right? It's just like it's all happening. That's when that is so. It's like if that is a bother, then use breath, use focus, use a concentration technique in order to relieve that pressure. But ultimately, when we truly sit all of the way down and welcome things as they are, internally and externally, then a busy mind and a quiet mind are not different. However this shows up is however this shows up, it's not different. Then you realize something that is ageless, timeless, that doesn't move. With that, anyway, I would like to open it up to question, to comment, anything that you would like to ask about meditation or to share of your experience of practice, where you're at, or anything at all. Please feel encouraged to unmute, particularly if you don't ever say anything, maybe now's the time where you hit the space bar or click the button and share your voice. It is certainly welcome. Gosh, time flies. It's almost well, it's almost 6 here. It's almost I think 7 for Karen. It's almost what is it? 9 for Kisan. I'm looking around and I'm spotting the time zones. That's a lovely thing that we gather together in this way. I really appreciate it. It supports my practice. You know, I finished a retreat. I didn't feel like sitting. I'm tired, but but that's good. It's good. It shows up. You're sitting. I'm sitting. I sit. You know, it's something I learned something that deepened. It reminds me over and over. Yeah, there's this now. Okay, there's this now. Let's take care of this now. Let's continue to offer our best. You know, keep a good altar. You know, with what we have and the ingredients that we are, and we'll close. Thank you.